10 o'clock.
Lights
when
are
the
on.
lights come on.
Yep. TAM light, come on.
There's Randy.
Mr. Randy?
Good morning, everyone. It is 10 o'clock, so I will call the January 9th, 2025 meeting of the retirement system to order. I'm actually sorry, February 13th, 2025. I was getting ahead of myself on the agenda. Item number 2 on our agenda this morning is to approve the minutes of January 9th, 2025. We have a motion and a second. Please record your vote. Item is approved. Item number 3 is the consent docket. We have 2 items that we can take with one motion. I have a motion and a second. Please record your vote. Item is approved. Item number 4 is to ratify approvals. We have 1 item. We have a motion and a second. Please record your vote. Item is approved. Item 5 is to approve the claims docket. I have a motion and a second. Please record your vote. Item is approved. Item 6 is to approve the following applications for service retirement. We have a motion and a second. Please record your vote. Item is approved. Let's see, where are we? Item 7 is to approve continuation of pension to spouse. A motion and a second. Please record your vote. Item is approved. Item 8 is receive report of death, authorize payment of the $5,000 death benefit, and authorize secretary to make necessary changes to conform on the following. I have a motion and a second. Please record your vote. Item is approved. Item 9, receive report of death, authorize secretary to make necessary changes to conform on the following. I have a motion and a second. Please record your vote. Item is approved. Item 10 is to approve the following applications of vested rights. I have a motion and a second. Please record your vote. Item is approved. Item 11 is approve request of the following to terminate vested rights and commence retirement benefits. I have a motion and a second. Please record your vote. Item is approved. Item 12 is items for individual considerations. We have one item. Item 12A is resolution to ratify the actions of the chairman signing the participation agreement and advisory letter for the Pioneer Multi-Sector Fixed Income Portfolio on behalf of the Oklahoma City Retirement System. I have a motion and a second. Please record your vote. Item is approved. And item 13A is the monthly investment report. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning. So you have the January report here today. A couple things. We've started off the year. Continuing, January was a positive month. We have obviously a lot going on with policy from the new president, a lot of questions about tariffs. One of the things, surprisingly, that we've seen year to date through today, international markets are the best performing asset class, up almost 6%. Part of that is due to the dollar has weakened a little bit, which has really been a headwind over the last decade for U.S. investors investing in non-U.S. stocks and companies. As we've looked over the last really 10 years, anything outside of U.S. large cap and really outside of a handful of names, the more diversified you are, you didn't do quite as well as just owning that handful of names. Not to say that on an absolute basis, this portfolio has certainly participated, but as we look relative to policy index, which is much more representative of large cap stocks, private equity, long short equity, non-U.S. equity that you have in your portfolio has been a little bit of a headwind. So you see here on this page, the dark blue bars are the month. MSCI EAFE, which is international developed, up 5.3%, the S&P up 2.8%. That's carried through into February. Emerging markets up about 2%. Small cap stocks up about a little over 2.5%. Trailing 1 year return still very strong, double digits, but as I mentioned, large cap significantly outperforming all other asset classes. We talked about asset allocation last month. This is more, which is a more strategic discussion. We're not necessarily talking about what's going to happen in the next quarter, 6 months, or a year. We're projecting out over a 10-year period based on where valuations are today, where yields are today. This look in the middle of the page is more just, if we look right now, relative to historical averages, how are certain asset classes priced? It's not necessarily a good indicator for what's going to happen over the next 6 months. But if we had new cash coming in or we have to raise cash for benefit payments, we do use this as a guide. More than that, we know that your portfolio is overweight to large cap because it's done the best. And so when we're raising capital to pay operating benefits, we're looking at what's overweight, which is also, from a relative valuation standpoint, fairly expensive. Looking at your portfolio relative to targets, as I mentioned, large cap is overweight by about 6%. Most of that is simply the underweight to private equity on a target basis. Your long-term strategic target to private equity is 15%. It's going to take time to build the portfolio to that level. We've acknowledged in the policy that it's going to take time to build that up, and that unfunded portion of the private equity allocation will be in large cap. And so that's where that overweight is. So that's been a positive for you, having that overweight there. A little bit overweight to small cap. Long short equity, this remains on here. This is really, this is holdback and some cash. You're pretty much fully redeemed, with the exception of these funds have a 10% holdback for audit purposes. We began redeeming in the liquidation in July of 2024. It'll probably be another couple quarters before this is fully liquidated. Really, for all intents and purposes, it's completely liquidated. This was close to 80 million originally, so we have no allocation there. Fixed income, close to targets. You just approved or ratified the signing of the participation agreement with Amundi Pioneer. As you'll recall, we had discussions around primarily emanating from changes and legal issues that Western Asset Management was having to redeem from Western, which is your Core Plus manager. As we looked at the overall construct of the fixed income portfolio, we also recommended getting out of Brandywine, which was dedicated global or non-U.S. bonds, because the Pioneer strategy that you're going into really is pretty dynamic, and it does all of those things. It includes some non-dollar, some emerging market debt, high yield, as well as other 144As or unrated corporate bonds. So it's a much more dynamic strategy. So this $83.2 million and $39.6 million will all be transitioning into Pioneer. Now that the agreement is signed, we would hope to have that fully transitioned by the end of next month, the end of March. The Western portfolio is going to take a little bit of time, probably have to do that in a couple tranches. It is a separate account. Brandywine is a commingled fund, so they will liquidate to cash. We'll transfer that to Pioneer, which is a commingled fund, in cash. The Western portfolio is a separate account, so you own individual securities. The plus portion of that is in commingled funds managed by Western, and it's just going to take more than a couple days to get out of that efficiently. And so WAMCO, we've instructed them to do it as efficiently as possible. So again, that should be funded by the end of March. We will want to have some modifications to the investment policy statement that we'll bring to you next month, just reflecting the changes to the allocation that we've consolidated some of the fixed income, long short has gone away. So each of these pieces have specific guidelines in your investment policy statement. Will effectively be just eliminating those pieces that don't apply any longer because you don't have those strategies, and adding guidelines for the Pioneer Multi-Sector Fund. Looking at performance for the month, up about 2% in the month of January, slightly trailing the policy index. Really where that's coming from continues to be private equity. That's because private equity is not represented in your policy index, that roughly 10% of your portfolio still being compared to the S&P 500, which is up significantly. Less so in the month of January, but over a one-year period, you can see that is almost 100%, probably it's more than 100% of that differential between your portfolio return and the policy index, where you have almost 10% of your portfolio up 7.8%. That 10% is being compared to a 26.8%. So that's a 2.6% contribution to that dispersion in the short term. That said, we have really both in private equity and real estate, we're starting to see more transaction activity. Actually, a couple distributions back this month in the private equity portfolio from Firstmark. There was a nice sale of a business, and then just this morning I saw a distribution. I don't know how much it was for, but it was a sale in the Clayton CD&R portfolio. We're seeing that across the board. We're also seeing marks, valuations being bumped up a bit in private equity. So because of the lag in reporting on private equity funds, we're seeing September of 2024 valuations are coming through in November and December. Some of them are even pushed into January, and they're reflected in performance. That it's a 4 to 5 month lag, but we're starting to see those valuations for September being bumped up from where marks were previously. And we would expect that to continue through December. So private markets catching up to what public markets have done the last couple of years. More importantly is starting to see some of that liquidity and money coming back. So overall, the trailing 1 year now at 10%. The 10-year number, I'd say that on a gross fee basis, it's bumped up over 7, net just a little bit below. That is actually trending up. I think we looked last month at rolling 10-year returns every quarter, and we saw what happened. We looked at 2 different distinct periods. One from 2017 to 2018, we saw trailing 10-year returns go from like 6 to 9% simply by taking out 2008. And then in mid-2022, after the market sold off so significantly due to rising rates, we saw your 10-year return go from close to 10 down to about 6.5 or 7. And now we're starting to creep back up a little bit as the impact, while still fresh, it's only 2 years ago, really, 2022. It's not having as big of an impact because we've had 2 good years since that point in time. Overall, things we're working on, getting the fixed income portfolio reallocated. I would anticipate that we'll probably come back in April with a private market and private real estate annual pacing plan. I don't anticipate that we'll have specific recommendations at that time, but we want to get in front of you with the pacing plan as to how much we have to commit, and just talking about pipeline for the balance of the calendar year. We anticipate a number of your funds to be back in the second half of the year raising capital. Specifically, Warburg Pincus will be back in the second half of the year. That has been one of the anchor foundational pieces in the portfolio. TrueBridge, secondary. This is investing in more mature, buying at a discount, more mature venture capital partnerships. It's actually, this fund was an August 2023 fund. It's off to a good start, but that is fully committed, not fully drawn, but that's going to draw down fairly quickly, and they're coming back to market. A couple of others that aren't that you don't have in your portfolio today that we think are worthy of consideration. So we'll come back with that plan, I'd say at the April meeting, with further recommendations later in the year. That short report this morning.
Okay, any questions on item 13A for Jason? Hearing none, Chair will entertain a motion to accept the monthly investment report.
And the quarter report is, for your information, it's month-old data. If we want to go back over that, we can, but we're up to date now.
You got a motion and a second? Please record your vote. Item is approved. And item 13B is provided for our information, so Chair will entertain a motion to accept that report also. I have a motion and a second. Please record your vote. Item is approved. Okay, item 14 is any comments from board, staff, and citizens? Okay, hearing none, we are adjourned at 10:18. Thank you, everyone, for showing up.